Ayo, my KOs. That's right, we've got the Levia versus KO matchup today featuring a very special spoiler card from Everfest in Swing Big. So make sure you watch that spoiler video first, had a lot of fun making it, and then you can find yourself on this video so we can jump right into the matchup here, because really, there's not too much to say about KO. Yeah, you've got a cool deck, yeah, there's a lot of 6 attacks in it, but really, to get good at this deck and beat your opponent, there's only one thing you really need to focus on, and that's how to roll dice. So, catch up on your homework, do some studying, and then you'll be ready to take on anybody and beat even the mighty Mansant on Levia. So with that, let's see these games. And back on the stream here, we have David, who was featured in the Oldham match way back in the day at this point, it feels. So, of course, always love playing against my boy David here, but I do smoke him in that die roll, rolling a 12 against his 8, and I will always choose to go first here. As I've said time and time again, you want to go first, you want to get at least one card in graveyard to start off your trade pattern. And with this hand that I have, I've got a pretty easy way to do that in the barraging beatdowns. The barraging beatdowns, very, very strong in the early game here, as you can force your opponent into hopefully some awkward blocks, while of course filling your graveyard. So even though it's turn 1 and David is going to be able to redraw those cards anyway, this is still achieving that goal of getting cards in grave. So I don't want to just waste resources to waste resources. I don't think playing that second barraging is worth it here, because there's only maybe like 2 non-blocks in KO, and I think oh no, there's like pulpings and tear limb for limb. So I guess in theory, if I play double barraging, I could hope to get lucky and leave him with a non-block to actually push a ton of damage. Or just hold it so that I can kind of string together a strong early game by potentially playing the red barraging next turn, because I don't necessarily want to commit to blood debt by my next turn. So that is the call here. And of course, arsenaling the Sink Blow as well to help protect against a lot of the dominates that are in KO, because that's kind of KO's shtick. He wants to swing in with tall attacks. He wants to hopefully hit like dominate on some of them, either like with Slogism or the Demolition Crew pound for pound. But that's not what his hand is going to let him do here, actually. His hand has a fancy, brand new, straight from the future card here in Swing Big. So Swing Big, as we're going to see here, is a fantastic new card for KO from the Everfest set. It is base 8. There is no additional cost to play this. You don't have to discard like you would with like a red Wrecker Romp. So KO just gets to freely play this card, hope to roll a 6, and look what he does. Actually hits that 6 natural on the first Swing Big recorded ever on YouTube. That is a natty 6. Holy mother of pearl, David. That's ridiculous. So I'm definitely going to hit that with the Gambler's Gloves. Gambler's Gloves there, if I make him reroll lower, oh my god. Of course I don't though. But, I had to do that, because if I do make him reroll lower, then that saves me 8 life. So it would have been massive if Gamblers could save me 8 life there, but it absolutely does not. So now I'm just staring down just an absolute miserable turn on my end here. It doesn't have dominate or anything, but because of that barraging, I'm now stuck with only 3 cards in hand, which would be 9 block. If I want to sink below 13 block, I wouldn't even be able to throw in Scabskins to fully cover that thing. So I'm forced to use Husk if I really want to gain that Quicken token, which in this scenario, I'm thinking to myself, Levia would love a Quicken token. Quicken is absolutely fantastic for Levia. It's basically a free Ghostly swing or a free Claw swing without having to roll Scabskin. So in my head, I'm just trying to count up to cover 16, so I get the Quicken, but then I get that card back in hand because of the Intim, and I realize, hold up, whoa, hold up. This is terrible for me now, because I have 2 reds in hand. I can't even freely pitch like a blue to crack the Quicken on like the Boneyard into a Mandible or something. I just don't have those lines available to me because of the double red hand. So realizing that, I recognize this blunder. This is horrible. I want to make use out of this Quicken token, but I don't get to actually have a turn if I want to abuse it. So I'm just going to Arsenal pass, and that gives KO a full 5-card hand. And my goodness, when KO has a full hand and finds an extra action point or go again with like pulping, or in this case, lead the charge, you are just going to face that many more die rolls. And I'm on the back foot here because I used Gambler's Gloves. So I'm just absolutely terrified at what David's going to throw at me. So He does lead here with a Regurgitating Slug, which cannot banish a Slogism. There's none in the graveyard currently, so he's just going to come in for what looks like 3 because of that Gamblers or because of the KO roll. He's going to gain the action point because of Lead the Charge, but it's really not worth rolling the Gamblers here because there's no hit effect, there's no Dominate on this Slug, so Gamblers is probably better used when it would push something like a Dominate, something more game-ending than just raw damage here. So I'm going to cover it up pretty cleanly with that Ghostly, but of course I know I'm staring down another potentially 12 damage coming from David here again. So now he's going to come into Demolition Crew, and this one's going to have Dominate because he's revealing a Predatory Assault. So depending on this die roll, this is either 3 or 12. What a fun design here. We've just got a die roll that is going to absolutely decide the game here. And yeah, well, look at that. He rolls the 1 into Gamblers into a 5, and now I'm staring down 12 Dominate right off the back of a 16 Dominate. And if I was in a deck with Husk, I would just be wallowing in misery. And I still am, honestly. I still am. This is horrible for me. I have a Blood Rush turn. I really want to use it, but that means I just have to take a whopping amount of damage here so that I don't lose cards in hand so that I can swing back with Blood Rush. So now I'm just hoping that my Blood Rush can pose any kind of threat on David, because David has already had some insane damage coming out of his end, and he hasn't even used his equipment to block yet. So I really am terrified. And if this Blood Rush doesn't pay off, then I'm pretty SOL, honestly. And with what I draw here, I'm really just looking for a way to string 2 attacks together and probably a claw. And that's actually exactly why I actually choose to use Hope Merchant's Hood, because I didn't have enough resources to make that play. So Hope Merchants was just digging for at least one more pitch so that I could go attack, claw. That way I can use the Quicken most optimally, because if I just went claw, attack, then I would have wasted the entire point of my previous turn of holding my attacks so that the Quicken would get value. So I am going to go ahead, pop the Quicken on this Hungering Slaughter Beast coming in for 9, which is very, very strong, of course, with the way the rest of my turn is going to play out, because I have that blue in hand, which is going to guarantee Claw into Boneyard is coming next. So that is going to be a 22 damage turn out of Blood Rush, which is above average. We love it. I'm going to end the turn with no Arsenal, though. But this is going to force blocks out of David's end. But David, the way KO plays, you really never know what your damage is going to be. So you just try to take trades where you like block 2, play 2, or if it's really dire, you block 3 and just swing club, because club is good. So David just is going to block with 2 cards and then just hope that his return doubles the power here for potentially 12 off a 2-card hand, which would of course be ridiculous. If he hits that, then, if you hit that every turn, no deck's going to outtrade that. So as I continue with my swing, pushing my 22, I feel good, but David has now made a decision. I'm going to hold this hand because I'm not being presented with lethal, and I will just hope and pray that I swing 12 back into, I guess, me, the Levia here, to maintain tempo. So I'm going to, unfortunately, looks like take Blood Debt as well, because that graveyard was actually in a pretty poor state because of the barragings, the Blood Rush, the Ghostlies, the Sinks. So I did miss it on that Hungering, and then I actually did miss again on the Boneyard. So actually, slight misplay in that I could have just closed the combat chain to send the Hungering to grave to increase my odds of turning off Blood Debt. So taking 2 life here actually probably a big deal, because David's always trying to threaten to end the game with dominates. So taking damage is always relevant, because as soon as there's some dominate threshold that he can hit that I can't defend from, I do lose. So David now playing his turn. This is another potentially dominate card here. Let's see what happens with the pulping. My God, of course, it is doubled here. So there we go. It's not dominated, so I don't just instant lose. But, he is coming in now for 12 damage. 12 damage. And the go again clause on pulping, not super relevant here because he doesn't have resources to play anything else anyway. But this is just insane. David hitting 3 of these now. in a row. I'm not getting any breathing room. I'm so behind on resources. My hood is gone. My husk is gone. My gamblers are gone. I have no arsenal. I took blood debt. I mean, could it be looking worse on my end, honestly? Well, the answer is I could be dead. So yes, I guess it could look a bit worse. It definitely looks bad. So with my hand here, yeah, as Levia has to, you do need to keep enough cards to turn off blood debt. So I'm forced to keep at least 2 cards from this position because my blood debt is ramping up. With this block, I'm going to actually be left at just 1 life here. So I just can't take blood debt ever from this point on. I would just lose. So I'm always going to have to keep 2 cards now. David knows this. Without Arsenal, it's just going to be very, very hard for me to claw my way back into this game. But there's always the chance where I could maybe just chip David down enough to win off the back of drawing a reckless swing or something like that. So I'm always going to find my openings to attack just because, of course, my win con is still there. It's still possible. If he takes damage, then reckless could end it. So coming in for 7, blood debt is off on this. And David's hand has, of course, the possibility to just trade down 2 and swing back 2, as he will always choose to do here. So just looking over, making sure the correct 3 blocks are going to end up on the board here. And it's really not too much of a... the choices don't matter too much here. I do believe his arsenal is a Predatory Assault, which would combo with the Tear Limb from Limb, but of course he can't play it if he wants to block 2, play 2, so that is just going to sit around and act as... Well, I mean, he can play, but it won't get the Dominate, rather. So he's just going to go ahead and try to go for a win con here in rolling a 5 or 6 on the Predatory Assault, because the Barraging Beatdown, of course, would force me to the point where all I have left are 3 cards in hand, which would never be able to block 12. But honestly, I would lose anyway if I had to block 12 because I wouldn't be able to turn off blood debt. So here comes David with his Predatory Assault. It's not going to have Dominate, but if he rolls a 5 or a 6, I lose anyway. And look at that. It is a 5. So that is 4 turns in a row where David has hit the 5 or 6. That is redonkulous. Actually, no, there was one turn where he low rolled on the... Oh no, but it was a turn where he had lead the charge. Yeah, so I think that's every turn he has now hit a 5 or a 6. So I actually did pull the Reckless like I was talking about, but he was at 3. So not going to die to it. So that is my loss right there. I lose. Man, that is a feeling I was getting used to never having to feel again. These best of 3s have been going my way so swimmingly in the recent vids. But David taking me down. Unrelenting pressure coming from the Kayo. And Kayo is actually just poised to get strictly better in Everfest. Like, way better. The specialization card's fantastic. My new spoiler card in Swing Big, fantastic for Kayo. The deck is just going to be strictly better, right? I mean, it's always going to be a high roll deck. You always have to just get lucky to really do anything too amazing. But if you can control the variance a bit more now with his new specialization card, then perhaps he really just is a monster in Blitz now, and we're going to start seeing him more often, which is fine by me. I do own a cold foil KO, so I'll definitely whip that bad boy out for arm raise now and again. So David then now coming in with a Tear Limb from Limb. My turn was nothing too special. It was just Swing Claw and then Sigil to get something in Arsenal, or to get something in Grave. So my turn, just decent. But David's turn, definitely good. It could even turn out to be stellar, because he leads with the Tear, does hit the 6, even though he had a miss in hand. I know if I was playing it, I definitely would have discarded the miss, because that's just how I roll. So now he's going to come in with a Regurgitating Slog. This is either going to be for 18 or 9. So on the die roll here, really, of course, hoping it's not 18, and thank goodness for me, it is not going to get doubled here. So he's coming in for 9. 9 is still a huge chunk of damage, but with me at 23 because of that Sigil, I don't feel too scared about where I am having to defend from a 9 here, especially since David is not going to be able to set up an Arsenal to potentially have that crazy 5-card like with lead the charge, guaranteed pulping with go agains, like whatever it would have been that he could set up there. So I'm pretty happy to not see that. But if David can just get lucky on the block 2, play 2 strategy, he will win this game anyway. So I still have to stress out. I still have to try to play, perfectly on my end, because I don't get any breathing room. If I get, unlucky, I lose the game. Whereas if David gets unlucky, he doesn't lose the game. He just has a subpar attack. So the way luck works with these two characters is not quite the same now, is it? So my turn, really nothing too special there either. Just a claw swing, as I decided to block heavily on that last turn to just try to use my life as I dig for better cards. And now David coming in for actually a dominate attack because he's on lower HP. That is doubled, of course. Of course it is, David. Yeah, roll those 6s, bud. You go. You get them. We actually have a running joke at our locals. Whenever we do the raffle for a playmat at the end of the month, David wins. Like, I think the past 3 of the 4, David has won from the raffle. Like, the dude is just wildly lucky. And he also likes playing Saber's Bolton, and he'll find the OTK on, like, turn 4. Like, it's redonkulous. He'll start Soul Food every game. The kid is just blessed with luck, and I'm very happy to have him play Flesh and Blood with us, because he's just also a ton of fun to have across the table from you, lucky or not. So then, I do what I can. I'm not going to break Husk on that defense. I luckily, with that Sigil early game, am not under threat of losing it by just blocking even 4 on the Scabskins and Howl. So that does then lead into a Blood Rush on my end, where I get to lead in with Claws, and then my draws were actually perfect there as well. Or rather, not perfect. The barraging is actually a red. Darn, I actually thought that was a barraging blue. That would have been insane. But it is not. It is a red. So now my Claws turn is not going to be the 18 damage minimum that I'd like to see. It is going to be significantly worse than that. Just a 13 damage Blood Rush turn, which is a lot of work to pull off 13 damage, whereas all David had to do was play 2 cards out, get lucky, and come in for 12. That's just ridiculous. So there we go. My return here on David has actually caught him in a bit of a tricky spot, because his arsenal card is a Demolition Crew, which has a requirement, required additional cost there, and then he has to reveal a card that costs, I believe it's like an attack that costs 2 or more to play it. So he will actually be stuck with no ability to play a 6 attack back into me this turn, because he blocked with the Slog there. So the Slog probably could have just stayed in hand, so that he could at least try again to swing in for 12. At least in the way he blocked now, he is just guaranteed to swing in for 4, which of course is better than low rolling and swinging in for 3. So, honestly, if you're just not feeling the luck in that next hand, then sure, go for just the club play instead. That is always safe, while he waits and finds a better demolition play, right? But on my end now, I'm thinking game's pretty even. I caught him at an awkward spot. He's swinging back with club. This is probably my chance to swing back into him and put on further pressure than he just did on me. I really want to win this turn cycle. So Sink Below here also guarantees that I just won't be chipped down on life, but it was a little bit of a greedy play because I had 2 misses in Graveyard. So I'm doing that purely because I don't really want to keep Sink Below to Arsenal for next turn. I'd rather Arsenal and attack for next turn, because I'm not under threat of just dying to a Dominate. And so I'd rather an attack because I'm the aggressor right now. I want to draw into like a Blood Rush or like another Dread Screamer to be able to then play another attack out. So I believe the card that I'll be able to keep here is a Yellow Hungering, which is, not the strongest card to set up in Arsenal, but I do get to at least swing in here for 12 on the back of this 3-card hand, and then reset Arsenal. So I'm very much okay with the aggressive stance I've now taken on this turn, but of course I expended a ton of resources to swing in for 12 total on my turn, whereas David can always swing 12 for just a die roll. So on his swing back here, we're always just holding our breath. We have no idea how good his return will be. The KO player can't plan for it. Me as the Levia player can't plan for it. You just kind of hope and pray, and at least with Levia, you know that you have Husk, so that you won't just explode out of nowhere. You've got that extra 6 life, which can kind of counteract the extra damage that a die roll would do for KO here. But this is actually, if it doubles here, which, my god. Of course it does. Of course, swing big. That is twice now, swing big. Naturally rolling a 6. That is ridiculous. This card is now just blessed. The first YouTube premiere of Swing Big, 2 natural 6s. I think this is just a sign. Card's just going to be busted every time it gets played. Every time it gets played, natty 6. Promise. So I don't even remember what I was saying. It's something like, Swing Big is one of those cards that if it doubles, then it is going to overvalue what the Husk blocks as. But unfortunate for me here, it did not pay off for David. I gamblers the 6 down to a 2. He gamblers back to a 2. So that is fine by me. It is now just a 4 damage swing big, which is easy enough for me to block and get the quicken for. So because of that, because I'm basically guaranteed to get the quicken on the return, I go ahead and hope merchants because my hand was 4 reds. If I had any kind of pitch there, then I feel way better about my ability to use the quicken, but I hope merchants into 4 reds. So all of a sudden, I am now just on the ropes to use this quicken to any kind of above average play. I mean, I'm just going to have to lose my hand, lose my ability to reset Arsenal if I want to pull the quicken off, because the only line here is really to now pitch into my Hungering and Arsenal and then pitch into the Ghostly that's in Banish. So I can at least use the quicken, but I'm going to have to block with a card and Scabs here. Does save Husk for a rainy day, which is nice. But I'm not gaining huge momentum off this quicken. It's just going to be a 10 damage turn, and I'm going to lose my Arsenal. So, just didn't go my way. I mean, it could have been a lot worse, right? Could have been 16 damage coming at me because of that KO ability. So, not worst case, but definitely a poor scenario on my end. So now we just play out what I'm talking about here. I have to pitch those 2 reds to now just come in for 6. So this is another reason that the attack was there over the sink below, just because I want to stay as the aggressor from where I am in this point in the game. And while this isn't an amazingly aggressive turn, it is significantly better than if that was just a sink below. I guess unless the sink below had let me sunk one of my reds into a blue or something. Man, that actually would have been sick. I did not follow that line. I guess we'll see when I draw my next hand if that first card would have been a resource card, because of course that would have been fantastic, and then I will really be regretting the play lines in this game. But doing the best I can here, coming in for 6, definitely coming in for the 4 next with that Ghostly Visit. It is worth it purely so that I can try to squeeze value out of this quicken and stay ahead of the damage trade here. So 10 damage total. David has a hand that, of course, would be able to return potentially 12 here. He now has the capability of just blocking with probably that Wrecker Romp here, save the pummel to pay for demolition. Demolition reveals the other demolition, and then he can just set the one in hand up in Arsenal again to try to continue his 6 attack returns that could come in for 12. So we hold our breath once again in anticipation. What will happen? Will he roll the fabled 5 or 6? Is David that good at KO? Is he that skilled that he just will hit the... Oh my, yep. Guys, this is not edited. This is literally what was just happening to me. It's ridiculous. When this happens against you, you feel miserable. I'm a little worried here that Legend Story Studios thinks this is fun. I mean, I'm sorry. It's not fun. It's entertaining. It's definitely entertaining, but you sit there on the table, this feels miserable. You sit there as the KO player, you feel fantastic, but then you probably feel a little dirty later. So I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of this dice rolling archetype. I don't want to see it. I think the randomness in Brute is its absolute downfall. I want less of it. Less of it would make this class a lot better, but this is the world we live in, and this is probably the future we live in with Everfest here. So, but that's not to rag on the set too much. I think there's interesting things. I think Brute will probably benefit quite a bit from some of the new cards revealed, but I just won't be playing into the random cards, I guess to say. But honestly, the card so far that has me most excited for Levia in particular is actually the, what is it called, like Talisman of Recompense, something like that. I actually think that card is going to be pretty fantastic. Just the ability to protect you from an all red hand is so strong. On top of that, it is a go again item. So you see that puppy, you just drop it. And it has go again. You don't need to roll scabs to set that up. So that card does have me excited. I don't think it's going to spawn like new archetypes by any means. And you know, while I'm just talking, blabbering away, we need to pay attention to David because he's really pulling off some skillful plays here. Sorry about that. He did now come at me with a riled up, hitting that 6. Hitting that 6. Yeah, let's pay attention here. This is really incredible gameplay happening on screen. This is now a riled up that is going to deal me 6 over my 2-card block. There is just no way to outvalue that monstrosity of a trade. So on my turn, it starts falling apart even more. I can't even go for like cool plays with scab skins because I could just roll a 1 and lose the game. So I can't even do that. I have to play a really piddly Doomsday turn. These are like the turns you don't want to have with Blasphemfett, where you just summon Blasphemfett and he's your attack. You want Blasphemfett to be on the end of a wider play, but of course I can't go for the wider play because I had to pop Gamblers in this matchup. I couldn't go for wider play because I had to block down with my hand so heavily because David hit another 6. So I'm luckily turning off Blood Debt at least by banishing the Deadwood, but that's by no means going to like win me the game. It's going to keep me in the game, heck yeah, but as David now comes in with another attack, we'll see the die roll, and it's off screen. Okay, it's a 1. Thank goodness. This one won't kill me. This one won't kill me. Maybe the next one. But he's coming in now for Pulping. Pulping's actually a bit scary in this position because if I don't block with at least 2, it has Go again, and he does have Heart and Cross-Trap up with a card in Arsenal. But I'm calling the bluff here, really hoping that that card in Arsenal isn't playable. And this is just me saying I need to just have things go a little bit my way. Otherwise, I will just be losing the game anyway. So sure enough, calling his bluff, it was correct. I think that card in Arsenal is another Demolition Crew, and if I was tracking, I should know that. Maybe in the game I was actually tracking and I knew that. I probably did. I'm smart enough. So then on my turn, I have some semblance of a return. It's not amazing. This is the kind of turn that I would have loved to have into the Blasphemfett in the first place, because I get to lead here with a Howl into a Blue Dread Screamer. It's not a Blood Rush hand. I had too many non-6s to go for this, but I do get to play this Blue Dread Screamer that's in hand now to come in for 7 with Go again. There are misses in the graveyard, but like I said, at this point, I'm going to start losing anyway from the position I'm in, so I need to have some things start to line up. I can't just pretend that I am going to just miss on the Banish 3. I have to assume I'm hitting, and I do hit, thank goodness. And this keeps me in the game, and in my head, I'm always expecting it to anyway. I don't like to expect the whiffs. The whiffs that's the low variance. You don't pretend that can happen until it actually hits you a little bit too late, too little too late. So then coming in on the 7, David is going to block the 5, drops down to 3. The magic number, right, is to get him into 2 kill range with that Reckless Swing. And actually, this is a big mistake on my end. Catching this now, I don't think in the moment I was thinking about it at all. Don't know why. But I actually pitched the Reckless Swing here. I could have just pitched the Blood Rush. That way, when I drop... Oh my god, wait, what did I do this game? This is miserable to rewatch. I must have been tilted from the die rolls. Yeah, if I just keep the Reckless Swing and don't Arsenal Blood Rush, instead Arsenal the Reckless, then David just loses. It's just game over. I stick in the series here, and it would have gone to a game 3. Wow. All right, guys. Here, lesson learned. Do not play against KO too often in a row, because you will just get mentally defeated, and you will start beating yourself. And as we know with Levia just loves to beat herself anyway. So it just keeps happening. There is no break. I didn't play into this well, and on top of that, I'm just losing to David's additional roll of a 5 there. Oh my goodness gracious. Please just end this torment.